Now that we have amassed an arsenal of impressive secondary weapons that rival our primaries, it's time to explore more of a utility-based role for our primary slot. For all those melee enjoyers, we've long enjoyed slapping a dexterity arcane on our weapons, unleashing near-endless combos, but now we can take it up a notch. In my humble opinion, TENET FERROX takes the spotlight in the primary utility role. Its Alt Fire mode lets us eat the weapon, sticking it to the ground or any other surface, creating an electrifying area of effect that sucks in enemies and zaps them every now and then. There are two schools of thought when it comes to maximizing the potential of this. One involves purchasing the magnetic Ferox and building it for viral damage, debuffing enemies significantly. The other, well, it's about maximizing the number of different status effects it can dish out, which is precisely what we're delving into here. So let's dive in, shall we? Heading to Ergo Glass and buying TENET FERROX with Impact will add some impact damage to the old fire mode. Why Impact, you may ask? Because it's the only way to add any physical damage to the old fire, and because Impact allows us to use internal bleeding to get 2 status effects for that one damage type. Alt Fire has a 50% base status chance, which sounds great, but it actually isn't, because we cannot mod it in any way, and we cannot add multi-shot to the Alt Fire. But let's not dwell on that. The zapping rate may not be lightning fast to begin with, but it's not like we're expecting a thunderstorm of procs here. It is, however, possible to increase the zapping rate, which helps out a ton. The base electricity damage is already shockingly good, as it causes an arc to all enemies within 3-meter radius. Pretty convenient, I'd say, for a weapon that groups enemies so closely. Gas status works in a similar fashion, damaging nearby enemies, so it's quite a good fit alongside that. Another reason I feel like gas plus electricity works well is because we often use condition overload on our melee weapons as well as its galvanized counterpart on other weapon classes. Gas and electricity are not elements we build for frequently, so it will add extra stacks of damage to most of our builds. Impact and Slash are something most weapons have, but it's nice to have that off the get-go and have all the enemies primed for that first hit. Mods from Sanctum that add radiation allow us to make combinations that are otherwise impossible, so it's a worthy thing to explore it. And there is room for it in the build because it's rather limited on what we can do to improve it. Its damage, elementals, fire rate, internal bleeding, and status duration. 60/60 mods do not add extra status, so adding more damage is just a better option. You can use any serration, but I feel like a small sacrifice in damage output is worth trading for some sprinting speed, because we are after more utility after all. And because Dexterity Arcane adds a lot of damage, I do not even think a sacrifice in damage between regular serration and amalgam serration is worth talking about. Status Duration mod makes an odd appearance, and is there to maximize an effect of those few status effects that we do. Since I mostly use this weapon with my melee builds, I eat it at one angle and come back there in 10 seconds or so, it's good to see that all the status effects are going strong, and everybody is well primed and ready. Fire rate and more fire rate also helps with status viability. I feel like we just have to go for that, despite the diminished returns of adding multiple mods that affect the same thing. One drawback of this build is the fact that the primary fire becomes utterly useless, so it is a full commitment to having this weapon as a utility. But it works in a unique way. It holds the area down and primes everyone, and if you combine it with Panzerwolfahala's Violet procs, it can even do good damage over time. Alternate way of using this as a utility could be for energy gain, with Primary Exhilarate Arcane that gives influx of energy on impact status effects. To maximize that, I feel like we'd have to bid adieu to all our elementals and just add more impact damage, fire rate, and more fire rate. I guess it depends on our energy needs. Even with the previous build, we could get some energy out of Exhilarate. Middle ground would probably be just sacrificing damage completely by removing Serration and Dexterity and putting in an Impact mod and Exhilarate Arcane. I would keep the status duration because of priming capabilities. Removing Dexterity removes most of the damage anyway, so Serration alone is just a fart in the wind. I guess if you really need the sprint speed from Amalgam Serration, then it's a worthy trade-off. Ultimately, it all boils down to your needs. Tune it somewhere between these two builds, and you'll find your sweet spot. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. A huge drawback of this entire thing is that it takes a mighty while for Ergo to have mercy on us and offer a TENET FERROX with an impact damage enhancement. It's not possible to just farm it somewhere, you just have to wait for a rotation. So it is about patience and trying to remember to check every 3 days, because at times I sure as hell kept forgetting to do it myself. But it was worth it in the end. I like these kinds of builds and loadouts that focus on one specific thing. In my melee loadout with Valkyr and Arcatitron, I do not even feel a lack of a primary weapon, and I quite enjoy all the priming and utility. With most of the Incarno and secondaries being so powerful that they are capable of carrying us in any mission, I do not feel I lacked anything in other builds by not carrying some overpowered primary weapon with high burst damage such as Fellarx. So put a pin in it, and once you get it, let me know how it works for you. And if you have any suggestions to improve it, let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.